Now, I mentioned, Maggie, you had this very good question. Where are you? There. Because I didn't clarify this enough. But, you know, Steiner's most important work, which he said would last much longer than all his other books, for thousands of years, is his book, The Philosophy of Spiritual Activity. And he says, the essence of this book is to show that thinking is pure will. There's a difference between thinking and thought, or representation. Yes? Thinking is pure will activity. The astral is the relationship. So we form relationships between representations. And those relationships, behind those relationships, is a world of being, the astral world. But the thinking activity from the highest level of the spiritual world does this work. Works into the astral and organizes the images you have into logical thoughts. So when normally people talk about thinking, they talk about the pictures they have and the succession of pictures in a logical order. So Rudolf Steiner's whole essence is that thinking is pure spiritual activity. It's our first experience of clairvoyance.
As well as being a pure willing activity.
But this is pure, clear will. No longer is will unconscious. It knows itself doing what it does.
That's spiritual.
Yes. Yeah, and these pictures are memory images. If I say to you taxi, of course it doesn't work anymore because you have Uber and you have, what do you call it? Huh? DD. When I say taxi, you have a picture of a taxi, don't you? And that comes from memories of taxis that have become abstract. You've done it so many times, there's so many different taxis, that now you have a symbol in your mind. Some people see the word taxi, some people see a car red and white, some see white and green, yeah? They just have this image. They don't even know what kind of car it is. And the whole purpose of this whole complicated organization that we have to build and then incarnate in is so that we can begin to experience with our own control, our own spiritual activity, our beginning clairvoyance. Our beginning is as our development as a pure spiritual being. And I've been trying to get you to entertain the thought that not only that this is already very far advanced. We first had to create substance, and then the plant world, and then the animal world, so that an animal body could be built up in such a way that a spiritual being could live self-consciously within it. And the essence of anthroposophical meditation and the path that Rudolf Steiner took is to live in this thinking without any thoughts, purely in this activity, what the Tao would call non-action. The essence of the idea of human development, also through Waldorf education, is to help prepare a human being by 21 years old that they are capable of doing this, of meditating their own existence and beginning a new level of development in clairvoyance. Rudolf Steiner says, in this thinking, there is pure will and there is pure feeling. And this pure feeling is love. In the pure will, we are absolutely free. In the pure feeling that's in thinking, because my thinking is giving itself to the world. I am thinking and the world is living in my thinking. And that is love. And that can only be reached in meditation. Meditation, maybe in the beginning, is closing off and the person lives in their own activity. But eventually that meditation can be taken into the world. And one can live in the world in a state of insight, a state of meditation, you might say. And the beginning of this activity is right here. Right here with the ability to stand up straight. The forces of this I in the thinking is the forces that allow us to be upright. And these forces becoming more free allow us to have our first memory picture, to produce out of our own life forces pictures of what we experience in the world. a process that starts already the first year, should give us, if we're all healthy and have a healthy development, and we have the karma to follow that, by 21, to be able to penetrate this level of spiritual perception. And the love that's there, the natural love that's there in the little child, this has to be taken a hold of here. That eventually, in these years after puberty, up to puberty, become desire. And that desire has to be transformed by us into love. This is not a mystical process. If I ask you all right now to multiply 17 times 37 in your mind, you could achieve the result by inner activity. So what is 37 times 17? So write it down. Okay, the answer isn't important. The answer is important, but if we all tried, and if I wasn't talking to you, I would do it, because I would first take the 7 times the 7 is 49. I would have to set it over here, and then I would go over here. This might try to fall down. I'd pick it up again. I would be active in my mind with these images. Yeah? And I would finally get a number. I might not be sure. I might quickly do it again, and then I would say, that's it. At that moment, that's love. I did it with desire. I was desiring to have that result. That desire is mine. It's in my chest. But that answer belongs to the world. It doesn't belong to me. It's truth. And when out of truth, out of freedom, I seek truth, I find it in love. Not a dead, abstract memory picture, but an activity that leads me to insight. What is insight in Chinese?
洞见。
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 见。洞见。
洞见。
洞见. What is that? It's you see, you are the thing in that moment. You know, you look out in the night sky now, we can see Jupiter, and very faintly a few stars. Have you seen it in the night sky? But you know there are many, many more stars there because the light of the city blocks them out. But if you went out way in the countryside, you'd see billions of stars above you. But you know the scientists tell you with their telescopes, if you look anywhere where it looks dark, you will see, again, many, many more stars. So if you have the capacity in yourself to, like the telescopes, to see as far as you could into the whole universe, it would all be absolutely bright like the sun, wouldn't it? And that light is like the light of insight. And usually in our lives we have maybe a few moments, maybe once a day, or maybe once a week, or once a month, we have an insight, we go, I understand that now. And then we go back to our memories, to just living in our memories like dreams. Our thoughts are like dreams. But imagine that our insight was continuous. We had continuous insight, continuous vision into truth. This is what Rudolf Steiner claims he was able to develop through this power of thinking. That thinking becomes a new organ of perception. It is actually a clairvoyant force to see into the realities of the world. And we all have that seed, that capacity. We are all an eye that thinks. We only need to develop it further and further with more and more strength. Rudolf Steiner spoke, we need two forces we all have in us that we can increase unlimitedly. One is concentration, and the other is hingava, is devotion, giving up to the other thing. Concentration and giving up at the same time. And we can do this because of the human body, because we've built a body that allows us to do this in a controlled way. But we have to develop this over time in a healthy way, always with balance. The freedom, the concentration is here, the will is here, but we need the heart to bring them always in the right relationship that the world itself has. So now in this development, the child has formed their physical body, their life body has been born, and now they're together with their teachers, with their parents, forming their astral body, taming it, so that they're beginning to have control over their own emotions, not dominance, but control like ability to play music, control like be able to create with feeling. And remember I said the forces working here are the anabolic and catabolic. Those are the forces of building up and breaking down in the life processes. And those in the soul become sympathy and antipathy. And just like the dynamic of these life processes has to do with breaking up and building up and breaking down, Rudolf Steiner shows us that these soul forces that we all have are made out of the working of sympathy and antipathy. Yeah? So it starts here with desire. What is the soul form of desire? In Theosophy he calls this burning desire. All you have to do is hold your breath. There'll come a moment, an instant, when you'll have absolute desire to take a new breath. When you get hungry, you want to eat, you have a desire to eat. You have to eat. So what's it like? Sympathy and antipathy. Rudolf Steiner says this is a mixture of sympathy and antipathy. Remember, with our senses right now, we're here in the physical world, but these life processes, these are invisible. In the life world, in the etheric world, these are the different ethers working together. These are the formative forces that you can't see here, but you know must be active for the plant to even have this form. And these forces are real entities in the astral world. You can't see right now in the astral world, but your emotional level is already in the astral world. It's your direct experience, but you can't perceive it. Rudolf Steiner says a clairvoyant can see in your aura your astral formations. He says, just like here in the sense world, we have objects that have extension in space and duration in time. Yeah? These forces, the etheric forces, are living forces in time. They're not in space. They make things in space have the forms they have. And the forces in the astral world are sympathy and antipathy. They are the forces, like extension in space and living processes, that build up all the forms in the astral world. What is desire? Is it sympathy? Is it antipathy? I'll give you a hint. He says, these forces are a mixture of sympathy and antipathy. So what's the mixture here with desire? You know what sympathy and antipathy are. When you're sympathetic to something, you're drawn to it. When you're antipathetic, you're pushed away from something. So what is desire?
It's a sympathetic feeling.
Yeah, there's sympathy here, but actually most of the force is antipathetic, which makes it's a limited amount of sympathy, which focuses that sympathy, rejects everything else, and only wants that thing. Okay. It seems like sympathy, but it is antipathetic to everything else. And therefore, the little bit of sympathy that's in it is completely focused by that antipathetic force. I want to get in this elevator, and people are trying to get in, and I want to get in here. I have so much love to be inside this elevator. Yeah? Or you're like a man, I want to get up there with my car and head it down. Yeah? Our society is mostly dominated by these desires. So it's full of antipathetic forces and very little bits of sympathy. So if I make red antipathy and yellow sympathy, then these forms in the astral world look like this. You can read this in Theosophy because I know it's translated into Chinese. Yeah, this is not a judgment. He says, in the astral world, these are like solid objects. And then he says, and then the fluid objects is the flowing sensibility. Yeah? He calls this flowing sensibility, sensitiveness. And you know this. You walk around in a world of desires. I have desires right now to give you a good lecture. And at the same time, in my soul, there's a flowing sensibility, which I feel, yeah, I can sense the air in this room and the light in this room. I have a sensitiveness in my soul to what's going on around me. Actually, we should do this. And I have a wish. I have a wish that you understand what I'm talking about. So in desire, there's much more antipathy than sympathy, but there's a kernel of sympathy. In flow and sensibility, they're in equal portions. And in wish, I have much more sympathy, but there's a little bit of antipathy in it. Because these forces make up my egotism. Yeah, Lan might say, it feels warm in here. I say, no, I feel it's really nice. Do you want something to drink? She says, no. I'm like, oh, I really have to drink. I'm really thirsty. And then I have anxiety. I hope my bus isn't late. I have to travel somewhere. And as soon as she's not thinking of me, she's in this realm of the soul. These are pure sympathetic forces getting stronger and stronger. But these are the egotistical forces which we all have in our soul. So these soul light, when you're really interested, you're not thinking, tell me about that. You're not pretending to be interested, you're really interested. We all have this in us. And maybe Lan tells me something, I'm really interested, and I go, I'd like to support that. I'd like to know more about that. I become enthusiastic. I have a soul force in me that's going to move me somewhere. But this is still connected to me. So these are smaller forces. But I have also a soul life in me. I see a little child and I just feel joy. Can you see this? Just like we all are engaged in these life processes, we're all full of these soul forces. Our soul is made out of a whole mixture of these activities. And what is this? If you could see this, what would you see? What would you see if you could see this? We all feel it. We all feel this immediately with each other. But through meditation, it could be possible that one of my chakras open and I can actually see these soul forms in front of me. We would see the aura of the other person. And you can also read in Theosophy, he gives a picture of all the different colors and forms that you find in the aura. Forms that are from here, and also forms, and a different quality of light from each one. Yeah? He says, these desire and sensitivity, they're darker mixtures of brown and green and red, but they're like darker, somber colors, yeah? And they're external colors.
What's somber?
Somber is a darkness to them. But he even says, yes, but we all have these forms. He says, a mother's love for her own child is a kind of desire, but he says it's a beautiful dark red color. You can also have beauty here, but usually in a mixed up soul, there's not much beauty. These colors, he said, yes, you have again green and red and purple, but they're like full of light inside them. They're bursting with light, bursting with power. Okay, and I forgot to talk about like and dislike. It's only sympathy, but it's like cold and hot, cold and warm. It's more and more. Like something, have more. The man having a telephone attack. What do you do for telephone attacks? Okay, so just like here we have the secreting between, here we have the like and dislike, and it's more or less sympathy. There's no antipathy in it, but I like something or no thank you. Yeah? I don't have antipathy, but I don't have any warmth for it yet. So the warmth starts here before the light, and the force and the light. Yeah? Okay, and so here we're talking about the external, the house, the way that you fill your house, the quality, the warmth, the life of the household, and the habits, the good habits. Here we're talking about the soul. And here it's the souls of the people that are so important to the young person of this age, from 7 to 14. They're searching for souls that they can emulate, that they can have trust and have respect and emulate, how do you say it? And they can copy as role models. They're looking for adults that have brought harmony into their own soul. Not who have gotten rid of desire, but who also can bring these things into the right relationship. And although this is a whole realm of feeling and emotion, these from 7 to 9, the stories are especially to build the thinking about this soul world. So in the fairy tale, you have representatives of all these forces. You have the witch, you have the hero, you have a whole cast of characters that are different, that show different soul forces, and the story tells how these work together. And more and more and more, because we're going towards the world from 14 to 21, which is the world of truth, yeah? More and more and more, this story makes a true picture of the world. So here, when they begin to study the animal world, we want to look at the animals from the point of view of pure soul. What's the soul quality of the tiger and the bull or the eagle? Yeah? These help build the child's soul. And also I have people who come to me in America and they say, oh, we love Steiner education. We'd love you to help us build a Steiner school, but we don't want any of this Steiner stuff, any of this mystical stuff, any religion. We don't want our child to say any verses that have anything to do with God or anything moral. We don't want to brainwash them with religion. And that shows me they absolutely don't understand the development of the child. They want this because it's popular. It used to be popular to try to teach your child to read at 3 years old. Because they don't understand the principle of metamorphosis, of how things that are living and full of consciousness actually develop. That if I give a child an experience of music here, it helps them with mathematics later. It metamorphoses into a capacity for mathematics. And if I give them a verse that looks like a prayer, but it's a verse of awe and wonder to nature, that metamorphoses into a freer capacity in the future for respect, and then eventually for their own freedom. It changes in the soul. It doesn't stay as some kind of prejudice. We've run out of time now, so I don't know if you have to erase all this, but tomorrow I'll talk a bit more about the Rubicon age, and then puberty, and then we'll talk about the upper school. Okay? Thank you.